I want you to do something for a second.
Yeah.
Like wherever you are right now, just look at the nearest clock.
Or, let's be real, just tap your phone screen.
Yeah, exactly. Just tap your phone. You see those digital numbers staring back at you, ticking away,
Oh.
perfectly synchronized. And it feels like the most absolute, uh, undeniable fact in the world.
Right. It really does.
Like it's 8.14 a.m. or maybe 3.3 p.m. And that metric just feels like the fundamental rhythm of reality. But I have to ask you, what are you actually looking at?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because you aren't looking at the fabric of the universe.
Yeah.
You are looking at a highly localized, like completely fabricated human invention.
It's a deeply uncomfortable realization when you first confront it, honestly.
Go ahead.
We navigate our entire lives by this rigid grid of hours and minutes. We assume the ticking of that clock on your phone is the exact same ticking that, governs the cosmos.
Right.
But it isn't. The metrics we use are really just arbitrary subdivisions of a rock spinning on its axis while it orbits a medium-sized star.
And that completely shatters the illusion. And that's our mission today. We are taking you on a journey to totally deconstruct the very nature of time.
Yeah, we're really getting into it.
Whether you're listening to this podcast for Talking Miles from noonwave.com or, you know, prepping for a massive presentation, or maybe you just want to fundamentally reevaluate how your own memory works, we're going to break this down across three distinct frontiers.
Three huge
All right, so
frontiers.
we're starting with the physical cosmos, then moving inward to the neurological mechanics of human memory, and finally stepping out into the ultimate metaphysical boundary.
And, to really grasp any of those frontiers, we have to start by completely discarding the concept of universal time.
Just throw it out the window.
Exactly. We have to look at why humans created this grid in the first place, because for most of human history, time was fluid. You had sundials, you had the passage of seasons. Noon was simply when the sun was highest in your specific village.
Right, it was local, very local.
But as soon as we built the railroads in the 19th century, we suddenly had a massive problem.
Oh, because of the schedules.
Right. You couldn't have trains crashing into each other because London's noon was slightly different from, say, Bristol's noon.
Yeah, that would be a disaster.
So we standardized it, we created time zones, we forced the world into this mechanical rhythm.
Okay, let's unpack this because we essentially prioritize logistics over reality.
We really did.
We basically laid a mathematical net over the planet and said, hey, this is how time works now.
Precisely. But, the universe doesn't operate on train schedules.
Right.
The moment you leave Earth's atmosphere, our entire framework just collapses.
So, like, what happens on other planets?
Well, take a planet like Mercury. The mechanics are entirely alien. Mercury is so close to the sun and its rotation is so sluggish that it takes 176 Earth days to complete a single sunrise to sunrise cycle.
Oh, wow.
But it orbits the sun in just 88 Earth days.
Wait, really? So a single day on Mercury actually lasts longer than its entire year?
It does. A year passes before a single day even finishes.
That is mind-blowing.
Or, look at Jupiter. It's a gas giant, so massive and spinning with such immense angular momentum that a day is violently fast.
How fast are we talking?
Only about 10 Earth hours.
Jeez.
Yeah. The biological experience of time passing on those planets would be completely unrecognizable to us. Every single celestial body basically operates in its own chronological isolation.
Which makes sense when we talk about measuring days and years, you know. But if the measurement of time is completely chaotic, depending on where you stand in the solar system, there has to be some sort of anchoring principle, right? Like a cosmic baseline.
What's fascinating here is that there is, but it's not a clock.
Okay.
It's a speed limit.
A speed limit.
Yes, the absolute cornerstone of modern physics is that the speed of light in a vacuum is constant.
Right, which is what, like 300,000 kilometers per second?
Roughly, yeah. It is the absolute maximum velocity at which information, energy, or matter can propagate through the universe.
And that speed limit is baked into the fabric of reality, right? Regardless of whether you are standing on Earth or Jupiter or just floating in deep space.
Yes, exactly. And understanding why that speed limit matters is the key to unlocking Albert Einstein's entire revelation.
Okay, lay it on me.
Before Einstein, the classical Newtonian view was that time was like a metronome sitting on the edge of the universe.
Just ticking away.
Right, ticking away at a constant rate, completely unaffected by whatever the planets and stars were doing. Space was basically an empty stage, and time was the universal clock.
But if light always has to travel at the exact same speed, That classical view creates a massive logical problem, doesn't it?
A catastrophic logical problem, honestly.
Because of the math.
Because speed is just distance divided by time. If the speed of light cannot change no matter how fast the source of that light is moving, then something else in that equation has to give.
Right. You can't have an unchangeable speed limit in a universe where everything is constantly moving around, accelerating and decelerating.
Exactly, not unless the distance or the time itself bends to accommodate it.
So Einstein realizes that time isn't a metronome at all.
No.
It's a fabric.
Space-time. He realized that space and time are inextricably woven together into a single four-dimensional structure.
Wow.
And this fabric isn't rigid. It's malleable, it warps, it stretches, and it compresses.
I want to make sure we really visualize the mechanism here because this is where the human brain usually hits a wall.
It really does, yeah.
We were talking about time dilation, the actual physical slowing down of time. How exactly does gravity warp time? Like, how does that work?
Okay, think of space-time as a highly tensioned trampoline.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
If you place a heavy bowling ball, which represents a massive object like the Earth, the center of that trampoline, the fabric dips, right?
Right, it creates a big crater.
Exactly, a deep curve, a gravity well. Now imagine a straight line drawn across that flat trampoline before the bowling ball was placed there. Once the fabric dips, that line is suddenly stretched. It covers a longer curve down into the well and back out.
Ah, I see. The distance itself has literally become longer.
Exactly. Now remember our universal speed limit?
The speed of light.
Right. Light has to travel across that trampoline at a constant speed. But because the fabric is stretched by the gravity of the bowling ball, the light has to cover a greater distance to get from point A to point B.
Okay, so if the speed can't change, but the distance is longer.
To ensure the speed of light remains absolutely constant to any observer, time itself has to slow down within that gravity well.
Oh, wow.
The deeper you go into the curve, the stronger the gravity, and the slower your physical clock ticks relative to someone standing on the flat edge of the trampoline.
So if I'm standing on the surface of the Earth, deep in the gravity well, my biological clock, my wristwatch, everything is moving fractionally slower than an astronaut floating up in the vacuum of deep space.
Yes.
That is crazy.
And it's not an optical illusion. You are physically aging slower than the astronaut.
That's just wild to think about.
But the wild part is that velocity does this too. Special relativity dictates that as you accelerate closer to the speed of light, your time also slows down relative to a stationary observer.
And this isn't just theory, right?
Oh, no. We prove it literally millions of times a day right here on Earth.
Using the GPS network.
Exactly.
Okay, let's break down the GPS mechanism,
Mhm.
because this is the ultimate proof that Einstein wasn't just like a philosopher. He was a highly practical engineer.
He really was.
So you pull out your phone, right?
Yeah.
You open a map app to find a coffee shop. That blue dot on your screen relies on a network of satellites orbiting, what, about 20,000 kilometers above the Earth?
Yep, about 20,000 kilometers up. And those satellites are experiencing two completely different relativistic forces simultaneously.
At the same time.
Yeah. First, they are hurtling around the planet at roughly 14,000 kilometers per hour.
Which is incredibly fast.
Very fast. And that immense velocity, according to special relativity, means their onboard atomic clocks should tick slightly slower than ours down on the ground.
Okay, so the sheer speed is acting like a brake on their time.
Right.
But wait, they are also 20,000 kilometers away from the center of Earth's mass.
Yes, they are.
They aren't deep in the bowling ball dip on the trampoline like we are.
You're touching on the exact paradox the engineers had to solve.
Oh, really?
Because the satellites are further out from the gravity, well, general relativity dictates that their clocks should actually tick faster than ours. Gravity's grip on their time is weaker up there.
So you have these two completely competing physics phenomena. Speed is slowing their clocks down, but the lack of gravity is speeding their clocks up.
Exactly. A tug of war.
Which force wins?
General relativity wins by a hair.
Okay.
The effect of being further away from Earth's gravity is mathematically stronger than the effect of their orbital velocity.
So they speed up overall.
Yes. When you calculate the net difference, the atomic clocks on the GPS satellites run faster than the clocks on Earth by about 38 microseconds per day.
38 microseconds. I mean, that sounds like a rounding error. It's a fraction of a second. Why does that even matter to my map app?
Because your phone determines your location by measuring the exact time it takes for a radio signal to get from the satellite to the receiver in your hand.
And radio signals travel at the speed of light.
Right. So at the speed of light, a 38 microsecond calculation error translates to a physical distance error of about 11
Oh
kilometers.
my God. 11 kilometers. So if they didn't actively program the software to solve Einstein's equations and correct for time dilation, within a single day, my map app would think I was driving a town over.
Completely.
Huh.
The entire global navigation system would collapse in less than 24 hours.
It would be absolute chaos. Planes, boats, Ubers, everything would just break.
So the engineers essentially have to purposefully handicap the clocks on the satellites.
Wait, they break them on purpose?
Sort of, yeah. They make them tick artificially slower prior to launch just so they will synchronize perfectly with Earth time once they are up in orbit experiencing time dilation.
That's amazing.
It is undeniable functional proof that the fabric of time is flexible.
You know, when you really let that sink in, that time is this stretchable, bendable medium that wraps around planets and slows down with speed.
Yeah.
It fundamentally changes how you view reality.
It definitely shifts your perspective.
But it also forces a much larger, frankly terrifying question. If time is a physical fabric, a dimension that interacts with matter and gravity, where does it begin? Does the fabric have a rigid edge?
To find the edge of the fabric, you basically have to run the cosmic clock backward.
Like rewinding a tape.
Exactly. You have to rewind the expansion of the universe all the way back, roughly 13.8 billion years, to the Big Bang.
The simultaneous birth of space and time.
They co-emerged. Before the Big Bang, there was no space to contain anything, and there was no time for anything to happen within. The fabric itself literally sparked into existence.
I struggle to accept this.
Most people do.
And I think anyone listening does too, because human logic is entirely predicated on cause and effect. Like everything is deterministic. A ball rolls because it was pushed. A star forms because gravity compressed gas.
Right. A leads to B.
Exactly. A reaction requires a catalyst. If time didn't exist, there is no sequential moment of before for a catalyst to act upon. How can the universe essentially create itself out of literally nothing?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's the ultimate glitch in human comprehension.
It feels like my brain is breaking just thinking about it.
The problem is that our brains evolved to track predators and seasons within the framework of linear time.
We're survival machines.
Right. We are neurologically unequipped to visualize the absence of time. Stephen Hawking used a brilliant geographic metaphor to explain why the question, what caused the Big Bang, is mathematically meaningless.
Oh, I think I know this one.
He asked, what lies north of the North Pole?
Well, nothing. Every direction from the North Pole is south.
Exactly. The concept of north only exists as a directional metric on a sphere. Once you hit the absolute top of the sphere, the metric breaks down.
It just doesn't apply anymore.
Time is the exact same way. It is a metric of the universe.
Yeah.
Asking what happened before the Big Bang is like asking what is north of the North Pole. Before is a temporal concept.
So without time, before simply does not exist.
Right.
But astrophysicists actually try to model this, right? Like they run the equations backward. What happens to the math when they hit that absolute 0 point?
The math violently falls apart.
Just breaks.
Completely. When astrophysicists apply the equations of general relativity to the exact moment of the Big Bang, or similarly to the very center of a black hole, they encounter what is called a singularity.
A singularity being a point of infinite density. All the matter in the universe crushed into a point smaller than an atom.
Yes, and that word infinite is the problem.
Why?
In physics, when your equations yield infinity, it is essentially the universe handing you a fatal error message.
Like a blue screen of death.
Exactly. It means your tools are inadequate. A singularity isn't necessarily a physical reality. It's the boundary line where our current understanding of physics, the rules of relativity and quantum mechanics, completely break down.
Wow.
We have no mathematical vocabulary to describe what happens inside a singularity because the dimensions of space and the flow of time cease to function. It is a literal wall of human ignorance.
It demands an incredible amount of humility from the scientific community. To look at the most advanced equations ever conceived, realize they hit an infinite loop, and simply admit, we are entirely blind to the origin point.
It does take humility. But while we cannot see the singularity, the mechanics of the universe do offer us an extraordinary loophole.
Loophole.
Yeah, we can't see the origin, but because of that absolute speed limit of light we discussed earlier, we are provided with a literal functioning time machine to look back toward the early universe.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The concept of the telescope as a time machine. I want to spend some time here because it fundamentally alters how you interact with the night sky. The reality is, the night sky is not a live broadcast.
Far from it. The vastness of space combined with the finite speed of light creates a permanent chronological lag. The concept of now is really just a localized illusion.
Let's look at the block universe theory for a second. Einstein suggested that because time is relative to the observer, the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously in a massive four-dimensional block of space-time.
Right.
Your now is just your specific coordinate in the block. And when we look up at the sky, we are looking across coordinates.
Yeah.
We aren't seeing the universe as it is. We are seeing a massive cosmic museum.
A museum of ancient photons.
That is such a poetic way to put it.
It's true, though. Even within our own local neighborhood, the lag is present. When you look at the moon, you are seeing it as it was 1.3 seconds ago.
Because it takes light 1.3 seconds to get here.
Exactly. The light from the sun takes about 8 minutes to reach your retinas. If the sun were to magically vanish this exact second, we wouldn't know about it for 8 minutes. We would continue to orbit an empty space and bask in ghost light.
That is so creepy. We'd just be walking around completely oblivious.
Yeah, for 8 full minutes.
But the scale gets so much more dramatic when you look past our solar system. Like, the Andromeda Galaxy is our closest galactic neighbor. You can see it with a decent backyard telescope.
Yeah.
But you are seeing it as it exists tonight. You are seeing it as it existed 2.5 million years ago.
Because that is exactly how long it took the light, traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second, to cross the void between our galaxies.
I want to really visualize that time frame. 2.5 million years ago. When the specific photons of light hitting your telescope tonight first departed the Andromeda Galaxy, modern humans did not exist.
Not at all.
Homo sapiens were a biological pipe dream. Our distant ancestors, Homo habilis, were just figuring out how to strike stones together to make primitive tools in East Africa.
It's staggering to think about.
That light left Andromeda, zipped through the freezing, silent vacuum of deep space for 2.5 million uninterrupted years, surviving the birth and death of entire civilizations on Earth, just to finally terminate its journey against your optic nerve tonight.
It really puts things into perspective. Astronomy is, by definition, the study of deep history. Telescopes do not capture the present. They are physical time machines designed to catch old light.
Which implies something deeply unsettling. The present-day reality of the universe is completely invisible to us.
We are entirely blind to the present cosmos. Take Betelgeuse, for example.
Oh, the massive red supergent star.
Right, in the constellation Orion. It is nearing the end of its life and is expected to go supernova.
Any day now, right?
Well, relatively speaking, it sits roughly 640 light years away from us.
Okay.
For all we know, Betelgeuse exploded in the year 1600. It could have violently torn itself apart centuries ago, and we are blissfully unaware, simply waiting for the flash of that explosion to finish its 640-year commute to Earth.
We are surrounded by ghosts.
We really are.
We are the ultimate delayed observers, which honestly provides the perfect transition from the macro-mechanics of the universe to the micro-mechanics of the observer.
It's a huge shift.
We've established that physical time is a warped fabric, and the cosmos is a museum of old light. But what happens when the observer's own internal clock is fundamentally flawed? Like, how does human consciousness process this fluid timeline?
This raises an important question because this is where we cross the boundary into neurology and psychology.
Right.
While physical time obeys strict thermodynamic laws, entropy constantly increases, the arrow of time moves strictly forward. Human psychological time is entirely unbound.
We're not locked in?
No, the mind is a highly sophisticated organic time machine that constantly violates the linear arrow of time.
Let's break down the neurology of the now. The only tangible point of reality physically is the present moment. The past is a neurological echo, and the future is a neurological simulation.
Exactly.
But our brains absolutely refuse to stay anchored in the present.
Because staying purely in the present provides no evolutionary advantage.
How so?
The human brain is essentially an incredibly advanced prediction engine. To survive, it needs to anticipate future threats based on past data. So it spends an enormous amount of metabolic energy time traveling.
But the memory part of that equation is deeply flawed, isn't it? Like, we tend to think of memory like accessing a video file on a hard drive. I click the file from 2015 and I watch the playback.
Right, that's how it feels.
But that's not what the brain is doing at all.
Not even close. Episodic memory is not a recording. It is an active reconstruction.
A reconstruction.
Yes. When you recall an event from 5 years ago, Your brain is pulling disparate fragments of sensory data, emotion, and context from completely different neural networks and rapidly stitching them together in the present moment.
Like assembling a puzzle on the fly,
Exactly. You are essentially re-rendering the memory every single time you access it.
which means every time you remember something, you are altering it slightly based on your current emotional state.
Yes.
It's like playing the telephone game with your own consciousness.
That is a perfect way to describe it. And the physiological impact of this reconstruction is massive.
Because your body reacts to it.
Right. When you vividly recall a stressful event, say a terrible argument or a traumatic experience, your amygdala doesn't know you are just remembering it.
It thinks it's happening right now.
It processes the mental image as a current active threat. It signals your adrenal glands to release cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate spikes, your breathing shallows.
I can feel it just thinking about it.
Your physical body is dragged out of the safe present moment and thrust back into the toxic past.
So cortisol acts as a biological time machine. It bridges the gap between a ghost memory and current physiology.
Exactly.
And we do the exact same thing in reverse with the future. We experience anxiety over an event that hasn't even happened yet.
All the time.
We construct a total fiction like a terrible performance review or a plane crash, and our body pays the physiological toll today. Anxiety is literally dragging a fabricated future backward into the present.
We trap ourselves in chronological isolation. We let the ghosts of the past and the phantoms of the future completely dictate the physical reality of the now.
It's exhausting.
But the neuroplasticity of the brain, its ability to rewire its own circuitry, also gives us a remarkable mechanism to take control of this internal time machine.
And the ultimate proof of this internal reality-bending power isn't even conscious memory, right? It's dreams.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to touch on the sheer processing power required for a human dream, because it's insane.
Dreams are the ultimate evidence that the mind operates entirely outside of physical time and space. When you enter REM sleep, your brain essentially severs its sensory connection to the outside world and begins to generate an entire universe from scratch.
It acts as the architect, the scriptwriter, and the entire cast of characters simultaneously.
Yes, all at once.
You interact with people in your dreams who have distinct personalities, who surprise you, who elicit genuine emotional reactions. Your brain is rendering a totally immersive simulation in real time, and it wildly distorts the perception of time while doing it.
Completely distorts it.
A dream that feels like it spanned a whole week might have occurred in, what, a 10-minute burst of REM activity?
Exactly. It proves that consciousness can construct and inhabit a timeline completely independent of the physical world.
Wow.
So the profound question becomes, if the brain has the capacity to construct entire realities and dictate physical responses through memory, how do we harness that power deliberately while awake?
Right. How do we stop being victims of our own time machine?
The mechanism to do that, surprisingly, isn't a breathing exercise or, just meditating. It's a deep psychological shift.
Okay, what is it?
Let's talk about the neurology of forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Yes. We tend to frame forgiveness as a moral imperative, a spiritual courtesy you extend to someone who wronged you.
Like taking the high road.
Right. But if we look at it through the lens of psychological time travel, it is the most radical act of timeline alteration a human can perform.
Okay, let's strip the morality away and just look at the mechanics of that.
Okay. An event happens in your past. Someone betrays you. That event is locked in physical time. You cannot rewind the tape and stop it.
It's done.
It's done. But that betrayal carries intense emotional momentum. It creates neural pathways defined by resentment, anger, and defensive behavior. By default, that past event projects an angle of trajectory right into your future. It will dictate how you trust people 10 years from now.
It's a deterministic chain reaction.
Yeah,
The past dictates the future.
precisely. The past is driving the car. But forgiveness is the act of stepping into the present moment and severing the chain.
Cutting the cord.
You aren't condoning the action, and you aren't pretending it didn't happen. You are actively utilizing neuroplasticity to rewrite the emotional charge associated with the memory.
So you reach back into the mental archives, pull out the memory, and intentionally strip it of its emotional fangs.
And by doing so, you alter the trajectory of your future. You stop the past from dictating the timeline.
That is incredible.
It is the closest thing a human being can experience to literal timeline manipulation. You are recontextualizing a fixed point in history to change a future outcome.
That is profound.
Mm.
It shifts forgiveness from a passive acceptance to an incredibly aggressive act of self-preservation and psychological mastery. You are the sole author of your internal physics.
It requires an immense level of conscious awareness to execute, though, because the brain naturally defaults to the defensive momentum of trauma.
Right, the survival instinct.
But when you realize that consciousness has this power, the power to simulate universes in sleep, the power to rewrite past trajectories, the power to project into the future, it naturally pushes us toward the final and most expansive boundary of our discussion.
So what does this all mean? We're heading into the metaphysical frontier.
Yes, we are.
If human consciousness, operating from this tiny rock in a localized time zone, can bend time psychologically, is there a macro consciousness that operates beyond the boundary of physical space-time entirely?
It's the ultimate question.
And I want to tread carefully here because, we aren't here to preach or validate a specific theology or religion. We are looking at the architecture of these concepts from our sources. How does humanity philosophically reconcile the origin of the universe with the nature of time?
We have to circle back to the singularity, that absolute 0 point of the Big Bang where the math of physics breaks down into infinity.
Where the equations give up.
Right. Science hits that wall and says, we don't have the vocabulary to describe what existed before time. Metaphysics and theology step up to that exact same wall and offer a different vocabulary.
Which is?
They propose the concept of a superconscious mind, a creator that exists independently of the timeline.
Which totally solves the paradox we wrestled with earlier, the problem of cause and effect requiring a sequential timeline.
Exactly.
If a creator exists outside the fabric of space-time, then the creator is not bound by chronological sequence. The Big Bang isn't a reaction to a previous physical event. It is an intentional injection of energy from an external state of eternity.
It frames physical time not as an absolute ultimate reality, but as an artificial construct, a highly specific environment designed for a purpose.
Like a terrarium.
Yes, and we see echoes of this framework in modern psychological movements, specifically the concept of manifestation.
Oh, manifestation is everywhere right now. Everyone is talking about it. The idea that focused intent and emotional resonance can attract a physical reality.
Right.
But what fascinates me is the mechanics of the time gap required in manifestation.
The time gap is crucial. It's the foundational buffer of physical reality. Manifestation describes the process of visualizing an outcome in the mind, generating the physiological feeling of it, and then waiting for it to materialize in the dense physical world.
There's a delay.
The delay is mandatory.
Let's push that thought to its extreme. If physical time did not exist, if we lived in a realm of pure, instantaneous consciousness, every single thought would instantly materialize.
Everything, all at once.
The moment a terrified thought crossed your mind, a monster would appear. The moment you felt a flash of anger, a fire would start. It would be absolute, instantaneous entropy.
It would be completely unmanageable chaos.
Yeah.
Time, therefore, acts as a protective density. It is the friction that slows down the creative potential of consciousness.
I love that. Time is friction.
It provides the buffer necessary for cause and effect to be studied, for choices to be deliberated, and for learning to occur. Physical time is essentially an incubator for consciousness.
That reframes the entire human experience for me. It suggests the universe wasn't just a random quantum fluctuation, but an intentional architecture.
A purposeful design.
And if we look at the motivations proposed by philosophers for why a superconscious mind would construct this incubator, it usually boils down to two things, doesn't it?
Love and play.
Love and play.
The desire to create an other with whom to share existence, or the pure divine joy of experiencing manifestation. The desire of the cosmos to simply experience its own potential.
Which leads to what might be the most beautiful and humbling analogy we've encountered today, the concept of the universe as a grand dream.
It's a beautiful thought.
Let's pull the thread from our discussion on REM sleep earlier. When we sleep, our localized consciousness generates an entire world populated by avatars that don't know they're dreaming.
Right.
The metaphysical framework suggests the principle of as above, so below.
The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. The theory posits that the entire physical universe, the 13.8 billion years of expanding space-time, the supernovas, the relativistic physics, the localized ticking of Earth clocks, is akin to the dream of a superconscious mind.
Wow.
We are the avatars within the dream, endowed with a fragment of the dreamer's consciousness.
It completely reframes our scale. We look at the incomprehensible vastness of the cosmos, the crushing darkness of the ocean floor, the intricate biology of the air we breathe. It violently strips away the human ego.
It really does.
We are a microscopic flash of awareness in a timeline that stretches back billions of years.
It forces ultimate humility. But it also provides an answer to the heaviest question of all. What is the point of our localized existence?
Right. If we are just avatars in a divine dream, riding a rock through a warped fabric of space-time, looking at ancient light, what are we doing here?
The answer is baked into the structure itself. The purpose isn't to reach a specific destination or accomplish a cosmic checklist.
Okay.
The journey of seeking is the purpose. We are the mechanism by which the universe attempts to understand itself. When you look through a telescope at the Andromeda Galaxy, you are the cosmos looking back at its own history.
We are the universe waking up to its own existence.
Exactly. To grapple with the math of relativity, to reconstruct our traumatic memories into forgiveness, to stare at the night sky and ask these questions, that is the very function of our consciousness.
Man, we have covered an immense amount of ground today. We have traversed a massive intellectual landscape, and I want to synthesize this because these concepts shouldn't just remain abstract philosophy,
No, they need to be applied.
They have to affect how we live tomorrow morning.
Synthesis is where the knowledge becomes practical.
So we started by dismantling the illusion on your wrist. The clock is a grid we invented for trains, not the rhythm of the universe.
Right.
We rode with Einstein to discover that time is a stretchable fabric, warped by the gravity of planets and the speed of satellites, completely shattering the idea of a universal now.
We trace that fabric back to the singularity of the Big Bang, confronting the mathematical wall where physics admits defeat and time ceases to exist.
We stepped outside and realized the night sky is a museum of ancient photons, confirming we are completely isolated from the present reality of the cosmos.
We moved inward, discovering that while the universe is bound by the arrow of time, the human brain is a time machine.
We explored how memory reconstructs the past, how anxiety borrows from the future, and how neuroplasticity and forgiveness allow us to literally sever the deterministic chains of our own history.
And finally, we explored the metaphysical boundary. The concept of time as a necessary buffer, an incubator designed by a superconscious mind to allow experience without instantaneous chaos.
The profound, humbling possibility that the cosmos is a dream, and we're the active observers within it.
Exactly.
The ultimate takeaway from this isn't just a better understanding of astrophysics. It is the realization of your own localized power. You cannot alter the gravitational pull of Jupiter. You cannot speed up the ancient light traveling from Andromeda.
No, you can't.
But you have absolute mastery over your internal timeline. Through the conscious act of forgiveness, through grounding yourself in the neural reality of the present moment, you can fundamentally alter the physics of your own life. That is practical time travel.
It is the one domain of the timeline where you are the author. And I want to leave you with a final thought that builds on that concept of authorship in the universe as a dream.
Okay, let's hear it.
If our own minds possess the staggering computational power to generate entire, fully realized realities, while we sleep complete with the illusion of sequential time and autonomous emotion, and if the macro universe is indeed the dream of a creator existing beyond the boundary of space-time, what does that make our human obsession with schedules, deadlines, and ticking clocks?
It makes it a profound distraction.
Perhaps the rigid boundary of time isn't a cage we are trapped inside. Perhaps it is simply the canvas we were granted, the necessary scaffolding required to eventually wake up and realize we have always been the dreamers.
What an incredible perspective to end on. The next time you walk outside at night, look up. Remember that you aren't just looking at stars, you are bathed in ancient history. You are the universe observing its own past, armed with the power to rewrite your own future. Thank you for taking this journey with us.